Hey, this is ATM Silent Fox, the Green Brony, Green Corruption, Kyler A. Green, wherever way you want to call me, that is me. And today, I'll be doing my first fanfics read, and I'll be reading Too Shy for a Rainbow. So, let's check this out. Chapter 1. Hey, are you down here? Came the cracking voice of a developing Pegasus as she flew down from the cloud of city of Cloudsdale. Fluttershy's ears perked up as she looked up at the sky from the ground. The animal friends that had gathered around her beginning to move away, returned to their lives before she had arrived. There you are, the rainbow-haired Pegasus said, landing on the ground next to the skinny-legged yellow Pegasus. What are you doing down here? You missed the whole race, which I won, of course. The rainbow Pegasus backflipped in the air before landing on the ground next to her. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not a very good flyer, so when I fell, I panicked and wasn't able to stop myself. But the animals down here stopped my fall. I helped them out for their kindness, and look! Fluttershy stood up and turned her body so the rainbow-haired Pegasus could see. I just got my cutie mark for it. She showed off the 3 butterflies that adorned her flank. Really? I just got my cutie mark too! The rainbow Pegasus said, showing off her awesome lightning bolt. That race showed me the serious need for speed. Rainbow quickly zipped around the trees in the area, rustling leaves off of trees as she moved quickly. She stopped before Fluttershy again, smiling proudly. So how come you're not a good flyer? The whole point of a summer flight camp is to get better. Have you not been practicing? The rainbow Pegasus asked curiously. Well, I didn't practice at home. Fluttershy squeaked softly, and I'm not doing too well in my classes. She shuffled her hoof against the ground. I've been trying, but I was told if I don't pick up my grades, I'll be kicked out, she mumbled shyly. Well, how about I teach you then? The eager Pegasus grinned. What? You'd do that for me? Fluttershy said, shocked at the kindness that his filly offered. Sure, I love flying so much I'd love to share the feeling with others. The Pegasus let out a laugh. It sounds like fun. My name's Flutterdash, by the way. I'm Fluttershy. Fluttershy replied quietly. Nice to meet you, Fluttershy. Now come on. We should get back to camp before one of our counselors starts wondering where we are. Rainbow said quickly, pointing to the cloud city above them. Oh, right, Fluttershy said, having forgotten all about their supervision. She turned to her animal friends and waved to them. Bye, friends. I'll come and visit, I promise. She smiled softly, so then unfurled her wings and began to flap, picking herself up slowly. Wow, you really are struggling, aren't you? Rainbow said, inspecting Fluttershy's technique. I'm sorry. Fluttershy apologized as she did her best to fly next to Flutterdash. Are you sure you can't make it back to camp on your own? I should be able to, Fluttershy mumbled quietly. Alright, come on then, Rainbow said, dashing off almost instantly out of sight. Fluttershy began her slow flight behind her. Rainbow quickly flew back next to Fluttershy, looking a little annoyed. You can't fly any faster than that? Rainbow asked impatiently. I'm sorry. Fluttershy apologized again. Rainbow put a hoof onto her face. Alright. We'll go at your pace. As boring as it is, the two of them slowly made their way back to the clouds. It's been a while since I last saw your cottage, Rainbow Dash said, walking to the living room of Fluttershy's house. I still think clouds make a comfier home, though, she noted the wooded floor. Well, maybe, but my animals wouldn't be able to stay inside, Fluttershy said, peeking her head around from the door to the kitchen. Besides, I like being close to the ground. It's comforting. She chuckled softly. Before heading back to her boiling pots, she held the aroma of what she was cooking, gauging where it was in its development. She stirred one casually with a spoon. For another, she poured in a tad bit of seasoning. She then carefully opened the oven door to check out how the things inside were baking. Everything looks delicious, Fluttershy thought with a bit of glee. I just need to finish preparing the appetizers. She closed the oven door and walked over to her counter as she carefully prepared the salads. She had paid the extra expense for the fresh cut greens and flowers she could find, and then topped off with the fresh apples from Applejack. These would be the best salads she'd ever made. I hope Rainbow Dash will like them. Hey, Fluttershy, why is that rabbit looking at me angrily? Rainbow's voice came from the living room. Fluttershy's attention was instantly diverted as she quickly looked around the corner again. There was indeed the familiar white rabbit, standing on the table looking at Rainbow Dash with a glare. his arms crossed. "Angel Bunny!" Fluttershy quickly walked over to the Angel Bunny, who proceeded to look at her with an eyebrow raised. "You know better than to be rude to our guest." Angel simply huffed and turned his head away from Fluttershy. Now, Angel, be nice. I promise I have a special treat for you for dinner as well. So promise me you'll be good." Angel let out an exasperated sigh as he smacked his forehead. He then hopped off the table, heading for his bed. "Hey, you sure do have a way with animals," Rainbow said, watching the bunny hop off. "But what's with the attitude on that one?" "Oh, he's just always kind of been that way. He certainly is the most opinionated of the animals here, but he's also been the most helpful." Fluttershy smiled as she spoke. "He helps me take care of the other animals, helps me track my schedule when I forget important events. He even helps me speak up when I don't have the confidence to speak up for myself." "That little guy does all that?" Rainbow Dash said, surprised. "Oh yes, Angel's a very big help. I don't know what to do. I would not... sorry. Oh yes, Angel's a very big help. I don't know what I'd do without him." Fluttershy was smiling happily. However, her thoughts were interrupted as a pillow flew by, hitting her in the face. Well, your little helper just threw a pillow at you," Rainbow Dash pointed out. Fluttershy said, looking at Angel, who was pointing behind her to the kitchen. "Oh, that's right, the food!" Fluttershy quickly ran back into the kitchen. She quickly went to the stove and turned down the heat. Her soup was about to boil over and make a huge mess in the kitchen. It quickly settled down as she sighed in relief. "The food smells great, by the way," Dash complimented as she walked into the kitchen, smelling the air. "I can't cook very well, so the most I eat usually ends up just being quickly thrown together sandwiches." "Oh well, I don't mind cooking for you at all," Fluttershy said honestly. "You should vary up your diet more. It's good for you." Fluttershy smiled before carefully picking up a cloth in her mouth and opening the oven door. She reached in gingerly, pulled out the hot tray. On top of it were fully cooked desserts of her own design. A special cherry apple turnover with pastry sweetened with a cooked sugar coating. It was a simple recipe, but one she came up with herself, and she was proud of it. She placed the hot tray down on the counter. "Oh wow, that looks awesome!" Rainbow Dash licking her lip at the dessert Fluttershy had just pulled out. Now, Dash, the desserts are for after dinner." Fluttershy chuckled as she walked over to the salad. "It'll all be ready in just a few more minutes." She finished slicing up the apples to place on top of the salads. Yeah, just hurry up, I'm starving," Rainbow said eagerly as she walked back into the living room. Fluttershy carefully placed the apple slices on the salads, arranging them neatly. She couldn't help but smile at her work. She had made sure to decorate them just for this occasion. "Okay, appetizers are done, soup is done, and dessert is done," Fluttershy said, making a mental note of everything she had finished. "And the main course?" she said, looking over at the last pot in the stove. She poured out a small portion of the pasta, tasting it. "Main course cooked to perfection." She smiled happily, turning the heat off and carefully pouring the contents of the pot into a strainer in the sink. She put the drained pasta into a bowl and began to carefully season the main dish. "Everything is coming together wonderfully," Fluttershy said cheerfully in her mind. "Oh, I hope she likes everything. She said it smelled good, but I hope she actually likes the taste. It's been ever so long since I got Rainbow Dash alone to myself. I hope she's enjoying herself." Fluttershy blushed at her own thoughts. She hadn't realized how forward her thoughts were. She slightly shook her head and finished preparing the pasta. She had plenty of time to think about everything once she finished, having a pleasant time with Rainbow Dash. She moved quickly to set up the table for the two of them, placing 2 plates, followed by the proper utensils needed, and placing the salads first next to the plates. She pulled out 2 bowls and quickly ladled the soup into each, before placing them next to the soup. She then grabbed the big bowl of pasta and placed it in the center of the table. Fluttershy scrutinized the table. She wanted everything to be absolutely perfect. "Am I missing anything here? Is there something I can make it better?" She added herself contemplating the table. She draped it with her favorite white tablecloth, which was embroidered with a simple flower pattern. She knew it was likely to get a few stains on it tonight, with how messy and eater Rainbow could be, but she didn't mind. She'd gladly wash out any stains. Would candles be too much? Would she get the wrong idea? Or would that be a good thing? But how would she feel about them? She rubbed her hooves together, a little torn about setting up lit candles. Evoked images of romantic candlelit dinner in her mind, but she still wasn't sure if Rainbow Dash even felt anything similar to how she did. "Oh, I could set them up and say they're for better lighting if she asks." The idea quickly popped into her head. She went into her pantry and pulled out 2 long white candlesticks, and there stands, setting them up on either side of a table. She carefully lit them with the matches, the candles giving off a soft glow different from the light of the lanterns around the house. Okay, I think that's everything. Fluttershy inspected the table one last time before finally being satisfied enough to invite the rainbow-haired Pegasus to join her for dinner. Alright, dinner is She stopped herself as she looked into the living room, surprised at what was happening. Oh, I'm going to get you, you pesky rabbit! Rainbow laughed as she gripped a pillow in her mouth, chasing after the white rabbit, trying to smack Angel with it. Angel was equally guilty, hopping away from Rainbow at top speed with a pillow in his forelegs. The 2 of them had caused pillow feathers to start flying about the room. The 2 roughhousing critters were making a mess. In a quick leap, Angel jumped into the air, bouncing off the cottage walls and straight at Rainbow Dash. The 2 of them crashed, falling to the cottage floor, sending a pile of feathers into the air. Rainbow Dash laughed as the feathers fell all around her, the bunny lying on her back. Alright, you're pretty fun, I admit. Rainbow Dash said, standing up, the bunny sliding off the rainbow's back. The rabbit landed and turned its head away from Rainbow, dusting its hand before hopping off. What was all that about? Fluttershy asked, frowning a little at the mess that had piled up in her living room. Oh, your rabbit threw a pillow at me after I came back out, so I had to show him who was boss. Rainbow gloated while smiling, but it really worked up my appetite. Is the food ready? She asked eagerly. Actually, it is. I was coming to get you. Fluttershy smiled. I'll clean up the mess after dinner. The pile of feathers bothered her, but she had just prepared a fine dinner for Rainbow Dash. She wasn't about to let that go to waste. Awesome! I'm starved! Rainbow said, quickly heading for the table. I just have to give Angel his dinner, and then I'll be ready to eat too. Fluttershy smiled. She quickly walked over to where she had prepared a special dish for Angel tonight, so that he would be on his best behavior during the dinner. A special carrot and flour casserole. His favorite. She quickly walked back over to Angel, who had found his way to his bed, kicking back with a proud grin on his face. Fluttershy placed the bowl down next to his bed. Now, Angel, Fluttershy said, quietly so only Angel could hear. He looked up at her curiously. I made you your favorite dinner, so will you please be on your best behavior tonight, for me? Fluttershy smiled sweetly as she blinked her eyes, trying to get the bunny to cooperate. Angel looked at her almost as if he was bored. He tapped his hands together, wiped his forehead, and then pointed at Fluttershy. I know you have the best intention for me, most of the time, but pretty please, just for tonight, let me handle it on my own, she pleaded with her bunny. Angel swept his arm over his chest, patted his back, and pointed at Fluttershy. Alright, thank you, Angel. She smiled happily before heading back into the kitchen. Rainbow Dash was already halfway through her salad by the time Fluttershy sat back at her end of the table. Wow, Fluttershy, you really are a good cook. Rainbow licked her lips as the last of the salad disappeared into her mouth. Fluttershy had slowly started to make a dent into her salad. Thanks, that means a lot. Fluttershy blushed softly, looking off to the side, hoping Rainbow Dash wouldn't see her red face. Hey, how come the pasta doesn't have any sauce? Rainbow said curiously, pulling a large glob of it onto her plate. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want sauce? I didn't really prefer them myself, so I usually just give them extra seasoning and cover them in cheese. I can quickly make you some, though. Fluttershy almost panicked, ready to get up and cook again. Oh no, there's no need, Fluttershy. Rainbow slurped up on the noodles. It's different, but it's good. I've just never had sauceless pasta before, is all. Rainbow took a large glob of pasta into her mouth, chewing and swallowing along the way. She really was a messy eater, but she seemed to be enjoying herself. How do you get the noodles to taste so good? Usually they're awfully bland, Rainbow complimented. Oh, that's easy. Just add salt to the water you're going to boil the noodles in. If you make the water about the same consistency as salt water, the salt will cook to the noodles. This not only adds flavor, but it makes it easier for seasoning cheese and sauce to actually stick to the noodles rather than just slide off. Fluttershy explained with her knowledge of cooking. Huh? Salt? I never would have guessed. You sure do know a lot about cooking. Rainbow Dash put the pasta down for a moment to begin sampling Fluttershy's soup. Oh, it's nothing really. Fluttershy blushed again. I just learned over time. A lot of animals eat different types of food, so I just figured out what's best. It pays off, Rainbow Dash said, picking up the bowl of soup and gulping it down, finishing in one big swig. I love some more of this soup. She grinned in a sloppy grin at Fluttershy. Certainly. Fluttershy chuckled happily as she grabbed Rainbow's bowl and flew over to the stove. She was almost giggling internally. She really loves my dinner, she thought as she felt like she was glowing. She quickly refilled Rainbow's bowl with the soup. Flying back, Fluttershy went to place the bowl down next to Rainbow Dash. Suddenly, a ballistic carrot soared through the air, crashing to the edge of the bowl, but Dish falling forward and landing on Rainbow's head. Rainbow let out a cry, as in panic as she opened her wings and flew backward, flailing her limbs. Her leg kicked the empty salad bowl, sending it launching across the room as her back hit hard against the wall. A shelf holding various knickknacks fell down, sending more items hurtling towards the wall. One of the knickknacks struck the table, knocking one of the candles over onto the table. A loud crash echoed as the spices on the spice rack fell and began to roll on the ground. The little mice that had been living in their holes scurrying out in fright. Fluttershy tried her best to help Rainbow, but was hit by flying spices, sending plumes of debris into the air. She sneezed beyond her control as she tried to land and stabilize herself, only to find her foot on a round cylinder, sending her careening backwards and latching onto her fridge door. The door swung open, sending the contents spilling out. The unstable fridge door swung itself fully open, dragging Fluttershy along with it as she hit her pantry door. The door let out an audible crack as it fell inward. A large bag of flour that had been sitting at the top was jarred loose and fell on top of the frightened Pegasus. Rainbow coughed loudly as she lifted the bowl from her eyes to see what had happened. From where she sat on the ground, she could see a haze of white slowly clearing as the sound of frantic animals scattered from the kitchen. She could make out the sounds of mice and birds, though there was a few cries she was unfamiliar with. In moments the kitchen settled down and the dust faded. Fluttershy groaned as she sat up from near the fridge, covered in splotches of white all over her mane and coat. Fluttershy, you okay?" Rainbow asked, shaking her mane, trying to get most of the soup off of her. Rainbow only heard a terrified squeak reply. She wasn't sure if it was good or not. She moved the bowl from her head and carefully navigated the wreckage that covered the kitchen floor over to Fluttershy's side. She carefully closed the fridge as she was looking at this shaking yellow Pegasus. "Fluttershy, are you hurt?" Rainbow asked, gently placing a hoof on her shoulder. Fluttershy slowly shook her head. She wasn't hurt physically, but there felt like there was a clamp on her heart. Tears were burning at the edges of her eyes as she felt the weight of her whole dinner ruined right before her. "Oh, good. Where were you hurt?" Rainbow said as she began to dust Fluttershy off a little. "This is quite a mess." Rainbow chuckled, trying to make it not seem as serious. "I'm so sorry," Fluttershy mumbled quietly, almost inaudibly. "What was that?" Rainbow asked. "I didn't catch that." "I'm sorry," Fluttershy mumbled a little louder, but her voice trailed. "Come on, Fluttershy, I've told you before to speak louder. Now what are you trying to say?" Rainbow said, nudging her shoulder, trying to get her to speak up. "I'm sorry, okay?" Fluttershy cried out as she turned her head away from Rainbow Dash. Rainbow was a little shocked to hear the outcry from her timid friend. "I'm sorry," Fluttershy said, more calmly this time. The whole dinner is ruined now." Her voice shook as she tried to hold herself back from crying. "I just wanted you to enjoy a good meal, and now it's all over the floor." She pointed to the pot that had been put on the stove that had been knocked over and into chaos, soup covering the floor. "Aw, come on, Fluttershy, it's okay, really." Rainbow laughed as she tried to cheer up her friend. "I got most of it in me before the whole mess. I got plenty to eat, and what I did was delicious." "Really?" Fluttershy asked, wiping on over her eyes with her hoof. "Absolutely. Best meal I've had in ages. I can't even remember when I had a meal so awesome." Rainbow laughed excitedly. A small smile appeared on Fluttershy as she heard those words. Despite the mess, she enjoyed herself. The clamp that had been tight on her heart seemed to loosen. "Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it," Fluttershy said as she shifted to stand up, moving the flour bag from leaning against her. "But you're covered in my soup now. Would you like a bath?" Fluttershy offered. "A bath sounds great," Rainbow said, wanting to shake herself, but didn't want to get more soup everywhere. "But what about you? You're a mess too." Well, I had to start cleaning first. I'll be a mess anyway, so you can take the bath first, and I'll start cleaning," Fluttershy said, smiling. "Well, alright, if you say so," Rainbow said, nodding, flapping her wings and heading for the bathroom, so she wouldn't leave too big of a mess trail behind her. Once Rainbow Dash was out of sight, she let out a big sigh as she looked around the messy kitchen. She then looked over at the table, seeing the remnants of the dinner. Her poor favorite tablecloth. She had used it for such a special occasion. but now it was barely recognizable. She slowly walked over to it, noticing that the candle that had fallen over was still lit, burning her precious tablecloth. She quickly smothered the flame with one of the wet napkins on the table. The stains might have come out, but this never will. She sulked as she looked at the burnt, black portion of her tablecloth. Well, at least she had a good meal, Fluttershy said, trying to look at the things on the bright side. She had just wanted a quiet night together with Rainbow Dash, even with just as friends. She was glad for any time she got to spend with the rainbow-haired Pegasus. Fluttershy began to stack up the plates on the table as her thoughts ran through her head. I doubt Rainbow would want to have dinner with me again after tonight. She only doesn't hang out with me often because of quietness, being too shy to want to pull pranks, not being a strong flyer to fly together, hardly able to stand up for myself. Fluttershy stopped her stacking as she mentally kicked herself over every flaw. She sat down on the ground as she felt the depression setting back in. But I like her because she's everything I'm not. She felt a twinge of pain. But that's also why she won't like me back, isn't it? Suddenly a white blur appeared before her. Fluttershy was knocked out of her thoughts as she looked up, seeing a proud-looking white bunny holding a hand up to his puffed-out chest. Huh? Fluttershy said, almost shocked to see Angel standing there. Angel? You didn't have anything to do with this, did you? Fluttershy asked in almost disbelief. Her question was answered by a rather proud nod from the little white rabbit. Fluttershy felt her eye twitch as she stared at her little friend. Angel Bunny, what have you done? Fluttershy asked, angry. She was truly angry. It was a feeling she was unused to, one she'd seldom felt before. You ruined my dinner! You ruined my kitchen! You ruined my night with Rainbow Dash! Fluttershy cried out at her little rabbit friend, as she felt the tears threatening to come back. Angel looked uncaring back at the angry Fluttershy. He crossed his arms before moving one of his hands in a circle next to his head before pointing at her again. I am not crazy! You've been a bad bunny, Angel! Fluttershy stomped her hoof. Angel, I hate to do this, but you're leaving me no choice now. Fluttershy moved forward and grabbed the rabbit by the back of the neck. Over her mouth, Angel squirmed and struggled against Fluttershy's grip. She walked over to an empty bird cage she had set up in the living room that she would normally use to help her sleeping birds. She opened the cage door and dropped Angel inside and closed the door, locking it. I'm sorry, Angel, but you're in timeout, Fluttershy said, turning away from the cage and heading back to the kitchen as she could hear Angel rattling the cage in her attempts to escape. Okay, well, on to Chapter 2. Chapter 2. Fluttershy panted heavily as she lay on the cloud. Her wings were sore and her energy was low. She wasn't sure how much longer she could keep this up. It was exhausting her. Are you finished already? We barely got any flying in today, Rainbow sighed, hovering over retired Fluttershy. I'm sorry, Fluttershy squeaked as she shakily got up onto all fours again. You're never going to keep your grades up if you don't get into better shape, Rainbow said, flying down and forcing her on her feet, spreading her wings and getting her into a flight stance, much to Fluttershy's dismay. Okay, give me another speed lap around the loops, and go! Rainbow yelled at it before blowing out on a whistle. Fluttershy let out a soft cry before flying her forward as quickly as her wings could carry her. Her wings had developed early and grown larger, but they weren't very strong despite that. Rainbow could only groan at Fluttershy's top speed, not even being a third of what she could pull off in the air. Fluttershy grunted as she flew through the floating loops, trying to beat her old time, her body aching and screaming at her with every beat of her wings. She felt herself slowing down as her body forced its actions. She panted through the last loop, before finally landing and collapsing at the start line, gasping for breath. Alright, I can see you're tired. Rainbow rubbed her face a little annoyed. You're really out of shape, Fluttershy. Take 5 minutes to rest, then we'll do some lighter exercises. You won't be able to graduate if you stay out of shape, though. I'm sorry. Fluttershy panted between gasps of air. Her body wanted nothing more than a rest. This much physical exertion was beyond her. And that's another thing. Stop apologizing for every little thing, Rainbow said, rolling her eyes. I'm going to go fetch you some water. You just relax. Rainbow quickly flew off at a speed that if Fluttershy had blinked, she would have missed where she went. But wow, she muttered softly to herself as she watched Dash fly off. Nothing ever seemed to slow her down. She could fly anywhere, at any speed, at any time. Her mind constantly told her it was impossible for her to ever reach any level like Dash, but she wanted to do, even if it was just once. Huh? Something gently landed on the cloud in front of Fluttershy. It was a letter that had fallen from the sky. Fluttershy looked up, trying to see if she could spot who dropped it, but the sky was clear for the moment. With the occasional Pegasus passing by, she carefully picked up the letter, examining it. "It's addressed to me," she said, surprised, seeing her name written on the front of it. She carefully opened the letter before pulling out the folded paper inside. She opened the letter and began to read. "Dear Fluttershy, I've admired you from afar for some time now, but I'm too shy to admit my feelings for you in person. I don't know if I'll ever have the courage to face you directly about these feelings, but I'd at least let you know. Ever since I saw your sleek, beautiful yellow coat and glorious pink mane, you've inspired confidence inside of me. Your grace and beauty are second to none. Your eyes showed such deep love and compassion that I'd get lost if I were to look into them. Your voice is that of an angel. Your tenderness makes me shiver, and your being fills me with glee. I know this might seem confusing to you, but my heart throbs in your very presence. I don't think you'd ever notice me, and that's okay. I can live happily just knowing you're there. So please, continue to live happily and hopefully. And hopefully, one day, I'll be able to at least say hello to you. Your secret admirer." Fluttershy read the letter twice. She didn't know who sent the letter, or that any pony felt that way about her. It was a new experience, one that made her angry. She folded the letter back into its original shape and tore it into 2 pieces. She then tore the letter in half again. As she went to tear it for a 3rd time, she stopped herself, realizing what she was doing. She stared at the torn letter in her hooves, shocked at her own actions. The pony had tried to tell her that they cared about her, and her initial reaction was to destroy it? "Why did I?" she asked, confused. She had no idea why had compelled her to tear the letter. She felt guilt riddle her at what she had done. She tenderly folded the remaining of the paper and carefully tucked it into her mane. She would hold on to it. It was something precious someone had given her, even if she had destroyed it. "Alright, here." A bottle of water was suddenly thrust into Fluttershy's face, much to her surprise as she fell backwards onto her back. "It's just water, you scaredy cat." Rainbow rolled her eyes a little. "Oh, thank you," Fluttershy said gently, taking the water and drinking it slowly. "Okay, we're going to continue in a few minutes, so make sure you're ready." Rainbow said, flying around and thought about what to do for Fluttershy. "I wonder who sent me this letter." Fluttershy sat in the confusion as she relaxed, trying to prepare for more training. "Ah, that was refreshing," Fluttershy said, stretching as she walked back into the living room. Her coat sparkled from fresh cleaning. As she checked on how Fluttershy was doing, to her surprise, the kitchen was already starting to look normal again. "Wow, you work fast, Fluttershy," Rose said, walking up to Pegasus the way that was busy scrubbing away at the leftover soup on the floor. "Oh, thank you." Fluttershy smiled, looking over her shoulder at Rainbow. "And sorry again about this whole mess. I hope you still had a good time," Fluttershy meekly stated with a smile at her brush finished cleaning the last of the soup, before putting the brush back into her bucket of soapy water. "Oh, sure, it was a fun visit." Rainbow waved her hoof. "Good food and a good laugh. It was worth the trip," Rainbow chuckled. "Well, I'm happy if you had a good time. Then it was a good evening." Fluttershy smiled as she brushed her hooves off on a towel by her sink, before turning to Rainbow. "Thanks for having dinner with me." "No problem. We should do it again sometime, though perhaps with less projectile foods," Rainbow chuckled. "I'd like that very much," Fluttershy smiled happily. "Well, hey, before it gets too late, I'm gonna head home. You seem to have things wrapped up here, and I need to get to planning the weather forecast for next week. As much as I hate boring stuff, it was fun enough to make up for it," Rainbow explained. "It was nice hanging out. We should do it again soon." "Yes, we should," Fluttershy smiled happily. "Oh, before you go," Fluttershy said, remembering, walking over to the counter and picking up a brown bag before bringing it over to Rainbow. "My desserts managed to escape the destruction. I'd like to take them home." "Oh, awesome!" Rainbow said, taking the bag, smiling. "I'm sure they'll be delicious." Rainbow chuckled before turning and walking towards the door. "See you later, Fluttershy," Rainbow said, turning while waving. "Bye, Rainbow Dash." Fluttershy waved back, smiling happily. She heard the door close as she let out a happy sigh. "Good. She had a good time. And I almost finished cleaning," Fluttershy said, walking back into the living room. She looked at the birdcage. Sitting there in a huff of his arms crossed sat Angel Bunny. "All right, Angel, have you learned your lesson?" Fluttershy asked, walking up to the cage. Angel looked over his shoulder, looking annoyed at Fluttershy, his arms still crossed. "All right, you can come out now." She opened the cage, the rabbit instantly hopping out and running up the stairs. I wonder what he's off in a hurry about," Fluttershy asked curiously. She just shrugged it off, though, walking over to her couch and laying down on it, letting a quick sigh of relaxation. She wished the night had gone better, but it had turned out well enough to feel happy with it. She relaxed on her couch, letting the pillows comfort her. A loud throat-clearing cough came from in front of her. Opening her eyes to look down at the source, Angel stood there, holding a torn paper up to Fluttershy. "Huh? What's this, Angel?" Fluttershy asked curiously, taking the paper from Angel. She examined the paper carefully. It was old. The paper had crumpled several times, the color was fading from age, and the writing was starting to fade, but it was an old letter that she had read many times throughout her life. "Angel, you went through my private doors again." Fluttershy groaned as she looked at her bunny friend. The bunny hopped onto the couch next to her, uncaring for her groaning. He tapped the paper in her hooves repeatedly. "What about this letter, Angel? It's a memory of my foalhood, but it's not really important." Angel just tapped the paper again and then pointed at Fluttershy. He then imitated two people sitting at a table for imitating an explosion. "Huh? Are you trying to say things went in badly between me and Rainbow Dash?" Fluttershy said, doing her best to interpret her bunny friend. Angel nodded his head. "But you don't know that. Rainbow Dash could like me, maybe, one day, in my dreams." Fluttershy looked up at the ceiling. Angel put a paw to his face in frustration. He tapped his foot against her, causing her to look at him again. Angel pointed at Fluttershy, and then to the torn-up note, then to his head, and twirled his hand. "Angel, are you trying to say that I don't know what I want?" Angel nodded his head. "But I've grown up a lot from when I got this letter, Angel," she said, looking at the torn-up letter. "I've learned a lot more about emotions and love." But she still seemed hesitant to say the word. "But besides, that doesn't excuse you from making a mess of my kitchen, mister." Angel just sighed as he hopped off the couch. He was done trying to help for the day, hopping off to his bed once more. "Oh, well, I should probably take a bath before it's too late," she said, looking at her maid. She got most of the flour off, but she needed to properly clean the rest of herself. "All right, I'll get soaked, and then it's bedtime." Fluttershy got up from the couch, heading for her bathroom. Fluttershy bolted away at the sudden loud knocking on her door. It sounded like some pony was trying to break her door down. "Hold it on, I'm coming," Fluttershy called out as loud as she could, quickly hopping off her bed and going over to her dresser. She grabbed her brush and quickly did her maid. The knocking continued without stopping the entire time. Fluttershy quickly made her way to the door, opening it quickly. Several knocks hit her head as she collapsed on the floor. "Oh, I'm sorry, Sugar Cube," Applejack's voice said as the Earth Pony helped pick Fluttershy up. It's okay, Applejack." Fluttershy shook her head lightly, then looked up to her orange friend. "What's the matter, Applejack?" "Oh, no problem, but exciting news," Applejack grinned. "It's Pinkie Pie. She's back from her trip, and she's hosting a big party over at Sugar Cube Corner." "Well, wait, Pinkie's back?" Fluttershy said in surprise. "She's been gone a month, though." "Right, so we're celebrating her return. Come on, the party's already started," Applejack said before rushing back into town. "Oh, wait for me," Fluttershy cried out, quickly following after Applejack. "Wahoo! Cupcakes and streamers and friends, oh my!" Pinkie Pie cried out, bouncing around the entire party. Oh my gosh, I missed you! And you, oh my gosh, I missed every pony!" She bounced from pony to pony, giving each a big hug. "Fluttershy!" She pounced the yellow pegasus, knocking her to the ground. "Oh, I missed you and the other girls the most! I'm so glad you came to my welcome back party." An excited pink pony rubbed her face against Fluttershy like crazy. It's nice to see you too, Pinky. And Fluttershy gasped around Pinky's hug. But I need air. Fluttershy gasped as best she could. Oh, my bad. Pinky laughed, letting go of Fluttershy, letting her stand back up. How have you been? I haven't seen you in what seems like forever. You had told me everything that has been happening since I've been gone. Pinky talked a mile a minute as she normally did. Oh, nothing much, really. Fluttershy rubbed her hoof over her leg. It's been really quiet without you around. How about you? Did you have a good trip? Oh, of course. It was the best trip ever. It was nice hanging out with my sister and parents again. They really helped me feel like me again, and I was ready to come back. I just had to come back and throw a big party for all my wonderful friends. Pinky bounced in place. I'm just so happy! Pinky cheered. Well, I'm so glad to hear that, Pink. Pinks, you're back! Fluttershy was interrupted by the cry of Rainbow Dash, who quickly flew over to the two of them. Rainbow Dash! Pinky cried out, jumping up and hugging her dear friend. I missed you and the other girls so much! Pinky swung on her flying Pegasus, who struggled to hold them both up before the two girls crashed to the ground laughing together. It's great to see you again, Pinky, Rainbow said, standing up while still chuckling. You wouldn't believe how boring it's been around here without you. I didn't realize how much you've livened the place up. Rainbow waved her hoof in exaggeration. Aw, I'm sorry, Rainbow. Oh, shit. Alright, ignore that. I promise that I won't be going anywhere for a long time now, Pinky giggled, smiling with a big grin. You better not. Rainbow chuckled, bouncing the end of Pinky's mane with her hoof. After all, you still have that ribbon in your hair, so you better not forget how much you appreciate us. Oh, I'll never forget it ever again, Pinky smiled happily. Fluttershy watched the two close friends chat away so naturally. She smiled as best she could if either of them looked at her, but she couldn't help but notice how naturally they were able to strike up conversations. Rainbow Dash looked so natural talking to Pinky, and Pinky matched her energy so easily. She struggled to bring up a conversation with Rainbow, often too shy to think of something to talk about. She struggled enough inviting her to dinner last night. Plus, Rainbow was always spending time with Pinky since they always seemed to have fun goofing off together. Then, if it wasn't Pinkie Pie, she'd be spending time with Applejack, always competing about one thing or another. In fact, the last time she remembered Rainbow Dash coming to her to hang out was when she needed her to cheer for the best young flyers competition. I guess she only comes to me when she needs me. Fluttershy felt a little dejected, but this was still a happy occasion. Pinkie Pie was back. She walked over to the refreshments table, filling up a glass of punch for herself. Oh, hey, Fluttershy. Twilight's familiar voice came as she walked next to the table. It's nice to see you can make it to on such short notice. Oh, of course, it's nice to see Pinky again. It wasn't a lie, but she had to hide her jealousy. I forget how much fun her parties are. I'm relieved that she's okay. She left so suddenly. I was worried about her, Twilight explained to Fluttershy. I was too. Again, if it was true. But I forget how much time she spent with Rainbow Dash. I'm glad she made it home safe, but town will be fun again. Fluttershy smiled happily at Twilight. Certainly will be hard to keep things quiet again, Twilight chuckled. But I'm just happy everything worked out. I'm going to play some games. Want to join me? Twilight asked. Sure, that sounds fun. Fluttershy smiled back at her friend. What am I going to do? Fluttershy asked herself, watching Pinky and Rainbow Dash sharing a huge laugh as she walked with Twilight.